Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's me, Yeonni, and for today's Mental Health Monday video, I wanted to talk about my experience at the NYU Silver School of Social Work. I definitely think the education and experience was very much worth it at the end of the day. Also because in order to get my license in social work, I needed to be a part of a master's degree program for social work, so it was worth it because it helped me to attain my goal, which was to receive my license. So yes, let's just get straight into the video on some of my thoughts and feelings about the program, and hopefully sharing about my experience can help you as well. So first things first, I've said this in a few of my previous videos, but something to note is that the NYU social work program is more of a micro-focused clinical program. So for me, that worked fine for me because I knew that for me, I was very much interested in micro work, which is one-on-one individualized work with clients, whether it's in a hospital setting or school setting, focus on psychodynamic theories and how to do therapy with individuals. However, I realized there were some individuals in my program who they were very much focused on the macro side of social work, which is more like program management and policy level as opposed to like individual one-on-ones. And I realized that a lot of them were very unhappy with the program because there was so much focus on the micro and not as much focus on the macro. Like they would mention it here and there, but we never really, not never, depending on electives that you took, I'm sure there were a few that did focus more on the program management, like macro side of social work. But just some complaints that I might have heard from fellow colleagues was that really it focuses a lot on the clinical side of social work. So that's just something to note there. I know for a fact that Columbia School of Social Work focuses more on the administrative advocacy policy level, macro side of social work. So comparing those two programs is something that you should definitely consider, because I know, at least from my experience and hearing from my colleagues and friends who applied to social work schools in New York City, usually they apply to NYU School of Social Work, Columbia School of Social Work, and Fordham School of Social Work, and Hunter School of Social Work. Those are usually the top four that everyone applies to. So in that sense, NYU was the right choice for me because it was more clinical, it was more micro, which is what I wanted for my focus of social work. Next thing I wanted to talk about was the professors at NYU Silver School of Social Work specifically, because I didn't go to NYU for undergrad, it was just for my master's degree. So I felt like the professors at the Silver School of Social Work were very like one or the other. They were fantastic, amazing people that I learned so much from. Like I wanted to grab them after class, after every class, because I wanted to learn more from them, hear about their work experience, like how they got to where they are now, and just well-rounded, grounded clinicians who I really looked up to and was really inspired by. And on the other hand, there were some professors who, they were obviously very wise and intelligent to be a professor at NYU. You know, it's one of the most esteemed schools in the world, really. And however, sometimes I would question like why are you a professor of social work? There was a few times when I would be in classes with professors and sometimes they would like say racial slurs or really put a lot of their personal agenda or input into their curriculum, if you know what I mean. Like for example, I had this one class and this one professor where she was very, very well esteemed in her research. Like she had years and years of experience in social work. However, she would refuse to teach us any other kinds of topics besides the ones that she's researched on, and she's clearly an expert in that field, which obviously we as students respect. That's why we're there to learn from her. But if anyone would, you know, say like a different theory or like a different point of view, she would say it's wrong. You know, like theory is a theory for a reason. It's not proven, you know, that's why there's various theories, but she would always say her theory is correct and everything else is wrong. And because she's had this extensive years of experience and knowledge, she was always right on everything. And clearly that was a problem a lot of times in class where students felt really not heard, and we were kind of felt like we were just getting a class on this professor's research, not the topic that it was supposed to be. I think because some were so amazing and some were so awful, it kind of comes in the middle where you kind of have to take it for what it is. Don't put these professors on a pedestal just because they're NYU professors, just because of whatever they might have on their resume. Social work is such a like human field, I believe, that no matter what your experience, what your level of research, or what number of letters after your name, people are people and they're not perfect. So that's what my thoughts are on the professors at NYU. And now that kind of leads into my thoughts on the environment at NYU Silver Social Work. I found the environment to be it was supposed to be very welcoming and inviting of like these kind of stigmatized topics such as like race, privilege, oppression, and things like that, right? Because this is social work school, and as social workers, we work to push forward social justice, fight for those who are oppressed, and kind of go against the status quo. But like I said, depending on who was the professor, sometimes these class discussions did not really feel safe. Other times they felt very safe. So I would say it was kind of tense, because if you were in any other kind of master's program, I think it'd be kind of different because you just focus on whatever the topic is. When it comes to social work, so much of the person is involved in the work, so much of like bias can be involved in the work, and it's hard to not get personally affected by certain things that people say because of everyone's diverse backgrounds and their motives for being in social work school. So things were kind of tense when, like, for example, in classes, we try to have productive conversations on really stigmatized topics. What was it about? It was something about like religion came up, and then, the current president of the United States, President Trump, came up, the rights of women to have abortion or not. So clearly those are very, very sensitive topics, and it was supposed to be a productive discussion, but certain individuals in the class became very personally invested in sharing their own agenda, which, they have every right to have. But there's a difference between having your own bias and personal views versus trying to make everyone else believe yours, So I clearly have my own personal bias and my own beliefs and the way I live my life, but I would never, ever, ever try to convert or change other people to be like me. And as an extension, I would never let my own agenda affect like the clients and the patients that I work with, because that's all about patients' right to self-determination. It's their therapy, they're the client, and I'm just as a vessel to help them. So in a way, like the environment at NYU was kind of like a little mini microcosm showing how these students would be when they're social workers, and it was kind of scary. Yeah, the environment was tense, but looking at it positively, I'm glad that these conversations can happen in some of these places, and that in the program of social work, we're not just, addressing surface level things, and we are sometimes really getting into the deep-rooted social injustice that's in the country. And, it's just natural that tension is going to occur when you have those conversations. And then that topic goes into the curriculum at NYU. If you hear sirens, I'm sorry, there's something happening outside. Is this barrette thing working? I see it all over Instagram, and it looks really cute on other girls, but I'm a little self-conscious right now. I hope it looks okay. Anyway, back to the topic. So the environment leads to the curriculum. Mostly in the classroom, you learn about like values and ethics of social work. To be honest, as a person of color, I found the curriculum to be a little redundant at times. It's because, oh my god, this was also a huge like explosion that happened in one of my classes where certain individuals really voiced it. I commend them so much for being honest, because I was thinking about this, but I never would have really had the boldness to really say it in class. In a way, I feel like maybe it would have been better addressed if the individual spoke to the professor after class. But anyway, what happened was one individual spoke out and said that a lot of the curriculum and the assigned readings were very redundant because they were describing the lives that people of color had lived all their lives. So this individual felt like the curriculum was based more towards privileged individuals who don't really understand firsthand like racial injustice, inequality, and oppression and things like that. Like, yeah, that was pretty intense. But I really believe that in the conflict and disgruntlement, that's where progress is made, because we're uncomfortable, right? And in the uncomfortability, we have to address why are we uncomfortable and how are we going to address that. So I thought that was, although in the moments they were very uncomfortable at times, at the end of the day, I do feel like that is a good sign of a social work program where the students are uncomfortable. And even within the program, we see social injustice and favoritism and things like that, which really furthers the message of just how rooted the social injustice is in our society and in each individual in a society. A huge part of the master's degree program in social work is the field placement, which is the internship portion of the program. So you're in a pretty much like a full-time internship both years of the program. If it's the 2-year one, there's like the advanced placement, there's the extended. Those things I talk about in my how to become a social worker video, so check that out if you need it. My personal experience with field placement at NYU was extremely frustrating. So I said NYU is a clinical focused program, right? Well, NYU placed me in a setting that did no clinical work whatsoever. I had a very verbally abusive supervisor who took advantage of the power he had over me. It was very, very inappropriate. And NYU really did not do anything to get me out of that situation. I was lucky that that supervisor left his job, so I was assigned a new one. But it was just, trust me, it was like first semester of this master's program that is very, very expensive, and I almost dropped out because of just how like abandoned I felt by NYU, how unsafe I felt at this internship. And once again, it's just one person's experience. I know there were a lot of people who were very unhappy with the field placement office. So if anything, what you need to take away from my experience, second year was a lot better, but it was a lot better because I had to advocate for myself. I had to barge in there to their office. I put together like presentations. I like saved text messages that the supervisor would send me, how inappropriate he was. I cried. I didn't yell, but I tried to be really assertive, and that took a lot from me. But it was only after I learned to advocate for myself that I was able to get a much better internship experience my second year. At the end of the day, I tried to be, fair. They have a lot of students who have what they want to do, and their job as like the liaison in the middle of school and like all the agencies and places to place students in. I understand their job is hard, but I think my gripe was more with how they treated me as an individual and how they kind of really, I spoke to them with genuine concerns, and they would just kind of be like, verbatim, this is what one of the staff members said to me. She said, "Grow up, this is the real world." And I was like, did you not hear anything I just said? There's a difference between someone being entitled and wanting things that are not realistic versus someone who is in an unsafe environment and in an environment that is not conducive to what I signed up for. I signed up for clinical work. There was no clinical work. You know what I mean? Yeah, if anything, the field placement office really, really teaches you the importance of advocating for yourself. And if you are looking into going into NYU School of Social Work, or if you are there, or really any social work program, I bet a lot of this can be generalizable, I'm sure. Really have to advocate for yourself, for the classes that you want, for the treatment that you deserve, for the internship experience that you deserve and you paid for. You have to advocate for yourself, because people are not going to advocate for you, unfortunately. And some tips that I could give to you is you have to advocate for yourself and what you want in the program, because our job is to advocate for those who are marginalized, right? If we want to advocate for others, we have to learn to advocate for ourselves as well. And in this field, a lot of the times things that you think should happen don't happen. That's why we're in the field, to make change happen, because the status quo right now for these people who are marginalized is injustice. That's the norm, right? To skirt them under the rug, to understand that there's over 60,000 homeless people in New York City and whatever. But that's why we go to schools of social work, to fight the status quo, to advocate for these people who are voiceless. So in order to do that, you have to advocate for yourself. Secondly, I would say make connections with your colleagues and your professors, not only because of like networking and the typical like references and things like that, but the amazing conversations that you're able to have. And really I gained a lot of faith in humanity when I was in this program and when I graduated from the program, being like, there are other people out there like me, which is really cool. And another advice I could give to you is know that you will never know everything. Some questions that I received through my Instagram DMs that you have sent me is, how do you know like which program is the best one to like best prepare you to be a licensed social worker? And first of all, I've only gone to one program, so I really can't speak for the other ones. But I think my answer to that question, you'll never be fully prepared to be the best social worker. It's really a job that you learn on the go, and you just keep learning and you keep going. And also from my experience of speaking with some of the most knowledgeable, intelligent, like clinicians out there, humility plays a huge part in if you're an effective therapist or social worker or not. A lot of the times it's just about creating a space that's safe for that individual to share what's on their hearts and what's on their minds, and that's where the humility comes in. That's where, you know, our field is so, I hate it, but I love it in the fact that we are experts, but really at the end of the day, our clients are the experts of their lives. So no matter what license you have, no matter PhD, years of experience, I think humility is such a huge essential part of what makes you an effective social worker and clinician. As with any master's degree programs, when it comes to the finances, there is financial aid, so I would say do your research on that. I was able to receive scholarships and loans and grants as well that really helped me to pay for the program. This is the end of the video where I say I really overall do believe that the experience at NYU was very much worth it. I was able to receive an education that is very well-rounded, not only within the classrooms, within the conversations I was able to have with my classmates and my professors out of the classrooms, and through the tangible skills that I was able to learn through the internship. It did really feel like a very well-rounded program. It's really what you take out of it, and I really did receive a lot from being a graduate of this program. So that's it for this week's video. I hope it was helpful to you. Please like the video if it was helpful. If you have any more questions, definitely don't hesitate to leave them in the comments down below, or send me a DM on Instagram, because I'm always on Instagram. It's kind of a problem, but yeah, you can do that. And I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.